Prayer on Thursday evening will be by Alderman Waldron. Pledge of Allegiance will be with Vice Mayor No. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the June 27th, 2024 workshop and the special meeting on July 18th. We will have a service ribbon presentation on Thursday. And next up, we've got the TDOT presentation for the 24 Southeast Choice Lanes project. If you would, please come on up.
Thank you all for letting us come and talk a little bit about something that's definitely going to impact Laverne and surrounding areas. So I'm Brian Ledford. I'm the Executive Director of TDOT's new Public-Private Partnership Division. That will not fit on a business card. We tried. So when I say P3, that's Public-Private Partnerships. But I'd just like to informally go through some information with you all. Feel free to stop me unless that violates decorum, but just stop me and ask your questions.
I would say let's let him go through his presentation and then ask him questions at the end, please.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. So the first question is, why are we doing this? And why are we looking at options that involve private partners, that involve user fees? Why are we doing this? We have over a $30 billion identified need for projects. You all know we went through a big prioritization process, came up with a fiscally constrained 10-year plan, and you see what can be programmed with the dollars that we have. So $30 billion of identified need. The I-24 Southeast Corridor that I'm going to talk about is over a $5 billion investment to add lanes, to add 4 lanes to I-24 for the stretch of road that I'll talk about. Our annual budget is $1.2 billion for the entire state of Tennessee. That includes all of our state of good repair, resurfacing, bridge repair, plus any new projects. So when dealing with a mega project like this I-24 corridor, our only, without raising taxes or without the state going into debt, our only option was to do that in very small pieces. We do phase after phase after phase. And I would not see the end certainly not in my working life, probably not in my lifetime, of that effort based on the constraints that we have from a funding standpoint. So what are choice lanes? Let me start by saying what choice lanes are not. Choice lanes are not toll roads. We're not converting I-24 to a toll road. We're not forcing anyone to pay anything, and all of the existing capacity that's there now will still be there for free when we finish this project. So these are new additional lanes. We've shown 4 and 4 because that's largely what we have through this stretch of the corridor is 4 lanes in each direction. So we're showing 4 new lanes. They are price managed lanes, and the whole purpose of these lanes is to provide a more reliable trip time on the corridor. It's kind of a known truth in transportation design. You can't just widen your way out of congestion. That LA has proven that. Atlanta has proven that. You give people 10 lanes and they'll figure out how to weave around and still be clogged up. A managed lane concept like this has a much better, is much more effective at improving congestion. So the new twist to this is that these choice lanes will be designed, built, financed, operated, and maintained by a private sector partner. That's the private in public-private partnerships. So picture says 1,000 words. On the right, that's pretty much what we're talking about. That's 4 lanes over to the right, general purpose lanes, 2 new lanes, optional choice lanes, and separated by about a 4-foot buffer with the delineator posts separating traffic. I guess the other thing about that slide is it shows, these are some of the states that have gone before us. There are a lot of states, you all driven on them. You've driven on express lanes in Georgia, Florida, now in North Carolina, up in the DC area. They call them express lanes. We call them choice lanes to emphasize the fact that you don't have to get in them if you don't want to. So some of the transit effects of this, Texas saw 73% more customers, FDOT, 68% reduction in travel times, GDOT, an increase in on-time performance. The message here is that ridership has increased because travel times got reliable, that folks knew they could get on a bus, ride for free in the choice, the buses will be free in the choice lanes, and that they can have a more reliable trip time wherever they're going on transit. So, and that decision was made very, very early by the governor, by the commissioner. Choice lanes will always be free for transit buses. Here's some of the benefits that I've talked about. Reliable trip times. You know, WeGo gets to envision some express routes maybe that they couldn't even think about right now. Increased ridership and decreased congestion. Another one that's a benefit, I don't really have a slide for it, but another benefit of not just buses, but everyone moving is that emissions are reduced. The less idle time, more moving down the road, both in the choice lanes and in the general purpose lanes. So a public-private partnership, some of the benefits, some of the reasons that the legislature voted for this on a bipartisan basis, overwhelmingly passed this, is this public-private partnership allows us to address urban congestion and frees up other state dollars for rural projects across the state. It allows us to leverage that limited pot of funding that I was talking about. We'll have a very small public contribution toward this project. The first project will probably be in the $2 billion range. Our public contribution will be a very small fraction of that. The rest of it will be financed by the private sector. It also accelerates project delivery. We're on a track to deliver several miles of interstate widening to address urban congestion in a much smaller number of years than we would have if we had done this just organically with regular funding. So I-24 specifically, this is the environmental study area. It goes from 840, just past 840 in Murfreesboro, almost to the inner loop on 24, gets a piece of 440 to tie in, and then goes over to Briley Parkway. So this is 24 miles that is involved in our NEPA study area. Right now, we're in preliminary design. Our environmental, our NEPA work is underway. And the most immediate upcoming activities are some public meetings that are happening in late August that I'll talk about here in a minute. And that's really where we're trying to get the word out, because we want input from folks. So multiple access points, and the key word on this slide is potential. None of this is finalized, but we're looking at the various traffic and revenue studies that try to predict where the best places to have dedicated ingress and egress for the choice lanes. And here are some of the direct access ramps that seem to make sense starting out. Let me emphasize that no existing general purpose lanes, interchanges, or access points will be impacted by this. All the general purpose free travel and movements that are allowed and are out there now will be available after this project's done. We talked about, buses use the choice lanes for free. They see this as a big positive for them, and they're coming to our public meetings, and we're engaged in a community impact partnership with them. Okay, so the user fees, as I've said, are optional, but those user fees will change with traffic, with congestion. It's called dynamic pricing, congestion pricing. If you've taken an Uber during certain times of the evening, you've seen surge pricing. It's market driven based on how many vehicles are using them. You will know when you pass under a gantry, a price will be posted, and when you pass under that gantry and your transponder is red or your license plate is red, you will pay that amount, even if the amount changes while you're on the road. You will only pay what you see when you pass under the first gantry. The user fee based on usage, I guess the main thing I want y'all to get out of this slide, that a lot of times express lanes get folks have this idea that, well, the private sector developer, they're gouging during those high usage times. The nature of this managed lane concept is they have to guarantee us a certain minimum speed. Let's say it's 50 miles an hour. People probably aren't going to be going 50 miles an hour, but let's say that we make them guarantee a 50 mile per hour minimum speed. They have to raise the price such that it throttles the amount of folks who get in that lane. Because if their price is too low and too many people get over there, they fall below the guaranteed 50 mile per hour minimum, we fine them. It's the whole point about having choice lanes is to provide reliable trip time to the users. The schedule that we're on, we're in August of '24 here. Public information meetings are happening later in the month. Public hearings early next year, and then the request for proposals process starts in Q2 of next year. Throughout all of this, we need stakeholder engagement. I'll come back here at whatever point makes sense for you all, because we want you to know, we want this to be a transparent process. We want to reach commercial close by the Q3 of '26. That sounds like a lot of time from request for proposals to commercial close. In these types of projects, the initial RFP goes out, and then there's about a 9 or 10 month process of the developers, the teams proposing alternative technical concepts. They look at our concept drawings and they're like, oh, I can do better than that. I want access here. They didn't allow, I want to fly over that interchange rather than go through it. So they'll come with alternative technical concepts that we have to either approve or deny, so that they can know they can base their bid on it or not. So that's a long process. That's what gets us to commercial close in late '26. And then construction, we expect, would start pretty early in 2027. So the upcoming public meetings, we'll start with a virtual presentation on August 14th. That'll be and that'll be open for quite some time. And then the live events are on the screen. These are all, you can find these on our Choice Lanes website. But trying to spread these out, trying to get not just geographically spread them out, but spread them out in terms of the time, so that folks who have different schedules can still make it to a meeting. In the public meetings, we'll show the concept plans. We'll show the typical sections of what the roadway cross section looks like. Potential access points, get feedback. We'll show where we are in the environmental process. We'll talk more about those benefits to transit. We'll talk about the right-of-way process. We're doing everything we can to stay within the right-of-way that we own, but with any large-scale interstate widening project, there are going to be some right-of-way impacts. And then, you know, the most importantly, we get feedback from the folks along this corridor. That's what steers this project. So, you know, some of the things, you know, that we're asking folks to do, share the information that you have. And, you know, number 5, invite us to speak to, it can be a formal setting like this, or it can be just a group of, you know, community stakeholders that have an interest. We will get someone there, so. And then here's our contact information. So I went through that very quickly because I don't know how much time you all have, but I'm glad to answer questions. And if I don't know the answer, I will tell you that I don't know, but I'll find out. So.
Do you have any questions?
Only question I have is if you have a bad wreck and the main roads is blocked, would them lane be used to keep the traffic flowing?
No, we're talking about that. I think any type of emergency access, any type of a natural disaster, anything like that, the ability to collect user fees is not really an issue. Now there will be incidents all the time. There'll be some in the choice lanes. There'll be some in the general purpose lanes. We don't expect, because there are different types of P3s. There are some P3s where the private sector builds the road and then the public sector makes a payment every year. It's called an availability payment. We're not doing that. We're doing a revenue risk P3, which means the developer is, they're putting their equity on the line, they're going into debt, and they're at risk for whether or not they collect these user fees. So it's a little higher bar as to when we can just say, no, we're taking over your lanes.
Another question, how do you get on it? You get on it exits, or you get on it periodically going down the road?
Both. There will be some at-grade access points where it's safe, where there's a long straight stretch with no interaction with interchanges, where there can be some at-grade ingress and egress. But also, as I showed on that slide, there'll be some interchanges where you'll have all the existing ramps, and then you'll have dedicated choice lane ramps that will probably be like in the middle.
Who's responsible for the upkeep of those ramps?
So operations and maintenance responsibility for all the choice lanes will stay with the developer. They have to put that in there. They have to figure that in. So there are 4 lanes, they're dedicated ramps. If there's any elevated sections, particularly up at the north end, some of that will be elevated. That's all theirs to manage. We'll maintain operations and maintenance on our general purpose pavements and our interchanges, our bridges. So there'll be a line that we'll have to define. Say, this side yours, this side's ours.
And how will access be for emergency services in the whenever a wreck occurs? It's not an if, it's a when. Right.
So that's one of the beauties of using the flexible delineators. When somebody's life's on the line, those things don't exist. But they look like they're very closely spaced, but they're spaced far enough out that it stopped traffic. The vehicle can get where they need to go. And the downside of that is that a wreck can start in the general purpose lanes and spill into the choice lanes. It can start in the choice lanes and spill over into the general purpose lanes. When a wreck occurs, folks need to do whatever they need to do to take care of people and property.
Will that spacing be large enough, if need be, for a fire engine?
I don't know the exact spacing, but those plastic delineators are pretty much inconsequential to a fire truck that
So they
needs to
push
get.
over, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And they're fairly straightforward to remove if it's not, something's on fire.
first of all, I think I would match Rutherford County with any county in the state of Tennessee between Murfreesboro and Nashville for traffic. And it needs this, something like this, but there's always gonna be questions. I got a couple. The first one, have you came up with any kind of price as far as what folks would have to pay per month or in order to travel those lanes?
Right, so this is dynamic pricing set by the developer. So the party that goes out and borrows the money, puts up their equity, builds these lanes, they set the pricing, and during off-peak periods, that price is gonna be pretty low. I mean, during off-peak periods when there's no reason for folks to get in those lanes, they still want a few people to get in there, so the price is gonna be pretty low. During the highest peak period, the price is gonna be whatever it needs to be to maintain that minimum speed that I talked about. So no, we're not getting in the business of setting, because of this revenue risk model that we're following, we have to allow them the flexibility of managing their investment.
So you're saying it would be higher in rush hour, morning, and afternoon than it would
Absolutely.
be on the weekend?
Absolutely.
And, so it's not gonna be like an HOV?
No, sir, the HOV lanes, such
Right.
as they are, will stay in the general purpose lanes.
They will stay out there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that makes sense. And, so it's gonna go towards Nashville, it's gonna go to to 440 and stop.
That's the entire area that we're studying. Eventually, that's where we want to be.
Cause you got that underpass when you come into Nashville where 40 and 24 goes together, and you're two lanes any way it goes right there, unless they tear that out.
That requires some creativity, some engineering, some
Yes, it
coordination.
will.
Some coordination with railroads. There's all the above right there. I
And you
drive
talked to-
it every day.
And you talked about, it would be paid for very little by taxpayers, most of it would be from the people that use it, and
That's correct. The Transportation Modernization Act brought over $3.3 billion of general fund dollars to TDOT, and $300 million went to state aid off the top. So the $3 billion was then split up into the 4 regions. Each region got $750 million. Out of the Region 3 allotment of $750 million, we set aside $250 million to jumpstart choice lanes in Middle Tennessee.
they
We-
kinda have this in, Chicago, don't they, Chief? Seems like when I used to drive a truck, they had something like this where you could get over and skedaddle and,
They do, they have those lanes, but
Yeah.
right now, a lot of them they don't have, they're solid ones because of the construction, they're always in construction, but they do have.
I thought I remembered seeing.
Yes, sir. And we talked about all the states that have done this before us. Some of them have made some mistakes. We're trying not to step in the same holes they did. Pulling the HOV lane inside the express lanes was one decision that gave a lot of states a lot of problems. So very, early on in the process, the decision was made. There's 4 lanes out there now. We're not touching those. That will be available. The benefit that I get to talk about to a lot of folks is the first community meeting that we went to in Antioch, guy stood up and he said, I'm not getting in those lanes. You can't make me get in those lanes. And I said, I don't want to make you get in those lanes. Stay in the lanes you're in today and don't pay anything and see improvement in your trip time. And he said, why would I go any faster? And I said, because 15-20% of your neighbors are going to get in those new lanes. He said, okay, and he sat down. That's what this boils down to, is you get the benefit even if you don't pay.
So my last question is, you said that there would be a monitor up there that transponders? Does every vehicle have them, or just people who want them?
So, and this technology is moving so fast. It used to be a box, right? The transponders used to be a box on your dash. It's down to a sticker, a smart sticker, that those transponders can read up to 100 and something miles an hour. It's amazing to me. And by the time we go lanes open, you know, if we start construction in '27, by the time our lanes go open, that technology will have moved even farther. So you can either have a sticker, a transponder, or there will be a license plate bill. There'll be a license plate lookup, and you'll get a bill in the mail. And that's consistent with what we see in other states as well. We want the transponders out there. We don't want to go do license plate reader, have fees, you know, send bills to Michigan and hope somebody pays. We want to give these transponders away. It's a 50-cent sticker. So you'll see us trying to really get those transponders out and get folks set up, because that makes everybody's life easier.
So this isn't the first time that Rutherford County's kind of been used as a guinea pig for different road transits. Will the smart corridor be finished as it's planned, or is this going to replace it?
The smart corridor assets that are out there now obviously will have to come down. They are gantries over 4 lanes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going from 4 lanes, or from 8 lanes to 12 lanes. So all of that has to come down. What goes back up has not been determined. The whole idea, though, is that the benefits we were trying to get out of smart corridor, smooth the flow of traffic, give folks a heads up about what's in front of them, reduce congestion, or reduce the effects of congestion, reduce incidents. A lot of those benefits are baked into a much bigger effort in choice lanes.
They put all that up, wasted all that money, and now they're gonna tear it down. Am I wrong?
Welcome to government.
No, we're talking, we still get some years of benefit here before anything comes down, so.
A lot of money.
And we've talked with our ITS folks, a lot of that technology, you know, by the time it comes down, may be ready for replacement anyway. The technology piece of this is amazing to me, how quickly it's moving.
So I've got a question. Where are you gonna get the land? I mean, you're bucking up to, you know, industrial and retail, and you're going from 8 lanes to 12 lanes, and, yeah, where are you gonna get the land?
Right, so the engineers have been very busy, and during that ATC, the Alternative Technical Concepts, they'll be getting even more creative than we've gotten to try to minimize impacts. But there are a lot of places where we have a surprising amount of room, and we don't really have any impacts. But there are certainly choke points where there are going to be right-of-way impacts, and that's something that you know, we have to be honest with folks about. We have to you know, have a fair process and be transparent with folks about it.
And then going back to what the vice mayor was talking about on charging people, my brain was just going, you know, an app, and then the people, you know, sign up for it on their app with their license plate.
Right.
What if it's a stolen license plate?
That's actually in our legislation. The instances where fees would be waived, obviously, and that's stolen vehicle, proof of a transferred vehicle. There are several things that legislators raised their hand during the passage of this bill, and they were included in the bill.
Any other questions? Bruce, Kyle, either one of y'all have questions? Because I know y'all are the more technical minded.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you all for having
Good
us.
stuff.
Okay, we will have on Thursday the departmental reports, which I hear from Chief Mays will be very interesting. And then we are moving over to old business, second reading ordinance 2024-12, an ordinance adopting and enacting a codification and revision of the ordinances of the city of Laverne, Tennessee, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. That is a mouthful, everyone, but essentially it is us being able to work with Muni Code and Civic Plus to publish our municipal code online. Does anyone have any questions about that? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. First item is approve or reject city bids and purchases. First, we've got a Sourcewell contract purchase for furniture for the Public Works and Community Development Services facility. Total cost for all of the furniture is $374,399.84. It is below budget. We budgeted $400,000, and this is furniture for this building. Does anyone have any questions?
I read over that. Is that a complete deal, Doug? Do the whole furniture?
Well, Doug? Kyle?
Is that for all of the furniture, or just part of it, or?
It's for pretty much all of it. We still have a lot, or not a lot, we have a few areas like some of the break room areas and stuff that we'll probably get tables and stuff from other locations as opposed to what options they had, because it made more sense price-wise to get those at other locations. So as far as the main office areas, the cubicle areas, your admin areas, front desk, stuff like that, it pretty much covers all of those areas.
Okay, good deal.
On to number 2, sole source purchase for SWAT rifles for the police department. This is exactly as it sounds. It is budgeted, and the total price for this is $30,980. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 3, bid, fire department uniforms and accessories. This is what we do pretty much each year, and it's used for uniforms and accessories, just as it says. So the staff is recommending that we award this to CMS Uniforms and Equipment, and as they were the low bid. Chief Beasley, that's who we've used in the past?
Yes, sir, we've used them for the last, I believe, last 2 contracts at least.
Okay. So there won't be problems as far as them being in uniformity with what's already existing.
No, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Number 4, bid, fire hydrant sandblasting and painting. This will be about $110 per hydrant for the sandblasting and painting. There's also an optional additional cost of about $30 per hydrant to paint the bonnet and cap of each hydrant to identify water flow capacities. And so this is a budgeted item that will be paid out of the water department budget. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 5, state contract purchase, NICE logging radio recorder for the police department. And this is for the installation and programming of such system. It's $63,268.05. This would need to go through a budget amendment, and you can see kind of the background information on it. Chief, is there anything, Chief Mays, is there anything you want to add about this?
No, I just said it's very, very important that we had a system failure. This is the new system that would be put in place with redundancies, so we wouldn't have the same problem we've had in the past.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to B, approve renewal of service agreement with Motorola Solutions for city radio equipment. And this is just our yearly renewal with them. This covers July 1st through June 30th of 2025. The service agreement is $14,784. And this is for the radio system for police, fire, and other city departments through Motorola. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to C, approve the donation of real property from the Laverne Industrial Development Board for the Blair Road West Extension Project. The Laverne IDB recently met and approved donating portions of what will be the Blair Road West Extension that goes through their property to the city at no cost. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to D, approve change order number 1 with Isengard Construction Group Incorporated for the 2019 Interceptor Sewer Improvement Project.
Mayor, Board. This particular change order is for the 2019 Interceptor Sewer. It is a deductive change order, and it was because that they open cut New Paul Road because the soil conditions were not conducive for the boring, and they also added some watertight lids to the manholes. But it ended up being a deductive, so that's good.
So
Say that word again.
Deduct.
it's a reduction of $73,589.
I love it.
We like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You can keep bringing those. We don't like the other ones.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, moving on to E, approve amendment number 3 to the agreement for engineering services with CTI Engineers Incorporated for the Upper Cheney Woods Interceptor Sewer Project Sections 4 and 3.
You're gonna rain on our parade now.
Yes,
Yeah.
the next ones will rain on your parade. This is an amendment to our engineering services contract. Change order number 2, I think it was, did some modifications to the influent pump station, and it added some construction time. And in order to, to continue the services that we need to do, this is an addition to that.
And that is
10,000.
not to exceed $10,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions? F, approve amendment number 1 to the agreement for engineering services with CTI Engineers Incorporated for the Fergus Road Interceptor Sewer Project.
Another addendum to our contract to increase our engineering fee. This is for the Fergus Road Interceptor Sewer. Previously, we were going to replace just a certain amount. And as we were getting into the design a little bit more and having to get up underneath Murfreesboro Road, there were some conflicts. And so we wanted to try to adjust the slopes, and doing that, we saw that there was some more work that needed to be done downstream. So that's what this includes.
And this amendment is not to exceed $19,500. Is there any questions? Okay, and then we are moving on to G, approve agreement for engineering services with CTI Engineers Incorporated for the Waldron Road Sewage Pump Station Replacement Project.
All right, this is an existing sewage pump station. It's been in operation for almost 30 years, I believe. So it is in need of replacement, and pretty much it'll be replaced in kind. We'll look into the any additional developments that might occur, but most likely it'll be replaced in kind. And that project, our feed will not exceed $45,400.
And this is part of the budget for the project. Project was budgeted at $350,000. Any questions on that? Okay, moving on to H. Award a contract to Turner Security for the installation of access control, closed-circuit television, and network wiring for the Public Works and Community Development Services facility. Again, this is just as it sounds. This is basically for control access for closed-circuit cameras and for network wiring. Total contract for this is going to be $225,375, and these are multiple RFPs. You can see that in your packet. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on to I, approve grant contract between the State of Tennessee Department of Military Tennessee Emergency Management Agency and the City of Laverne for the Community Safe Room Project Phase 1. And yes, you heard me right, I did say Phase 1. This has been a fun project that's been going on for a number of years. With COVID, pretty much nobody could meet any of the time frames that they originally set forth, so they've kind of taken it back, figured out a few things, and are now moving forward with it. So this is now Phase 1, and this contract extends until the end of this calendar year, so December 31st, and it is $33,304.83. It's an extension of some of our previous ones to reimburse for different expenses that we've had, whether it's design, whether it's dirt work, and as far as doing ground penetrating radar that we've had to do, and just different items with it. So glad to see this come through, and hopefully we can get it back on track. That's always easier said than done, though. Last but not least, number J, or letter J, approve master equity lease agreement addendum to the master equity lease agreement and open-end equity lease rate quotes with Enterprise to lease 5 vehicles for the codes, city hall buildings, street and water department. And this will include 1 Ford F-150 for codes, 1 Ford Explorer for City Hall, 1 Ford F-150 for the Streets Department, 1 F-250, and 1 Ford Maverick for the Water Department. These vehicles were included in the budget as proposed lease vehicles, and you can see all of that here in your packet with those breakdowns. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on to new business, first reading ordinance 2024-13, an ordinance to amend Title 20, Chapter 4 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding public records. And this is to bring into our municipal code the Just FOIA website. Currently, it does not mention any of that in here. We're adding that as a online portal to submit, track, and respond to public records requests. Makes it quicker, makes it more efficient than the current process of paper ID and waiting 10 days for Miss Juliet. So this also cleans up a little bit of the language in the municipal code. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Moving on to number 8, first reading ordinance 2024-14, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 general fund budget. This has got a couple different items on here, and this should be the final budget amendment for the 23-24 year. You should see the total of this amendment is $378,000. It's going to be taken out of fund balance, but it covers everything from city hall buildings to finance to IT. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to first reading ordinance 2024-15, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2024-2025 general fund budget. And this is what we referenced earlier with the nice logging radio recorder for the police department. This is the budget amendment tied to that. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to number 10, Resolution 2024-20, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city's needs and directing disposal of the same. And this is just something we regularly do. This is 6 vehicles out of the police department that have been seized and awarded for the city's disposal. That and including a motorcycle. We've got some items for Parks and Rec, and then the water department's got a couple of items. Does anyone have any questions? Next, we have motion to approve an agreement with the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County for sewage transportation and treatment. Several months back, Metro Nashville notified everyone who is basically using them for sewage which is Brentwood, Belmead, Goodlettsville, Millersville, and the city of Laverne, that they were going to go through and do a rate study. And they did it. They have listed everything in here. It's about a 5.88% increase on sewage rates, not on water, just on sewage, to meet their rates for their increase. None of us like it, but sad thing is we have to send our sewage somewhere. And so you can read through and see all of the transportation rates, and then some of the tracking that they've asked as well that we don't have a problem with. Does anyone have any questions?
So our sewer rates are gonna go up again?
5.88%, because Nashville is increasing the cost on all of these municipalities. So it looks like it's $1.53 per CCF.
What is CC?
That's the current one. It will increase to $1.62.
That's just our rate to Metro. If the board feels that we will need to increase our rates due to this increase, then you would need to, have another agenda item in the future to increase our rates. So this is just what we pay Metro to treat our sewer.
And we'll have to look at the rate study that we just completed to see
Okay.
what was built into that, to see if there's going to be any difference that we'll need to account for.
So, sorry, I spoke out of missed it. Madam
So this is just what the city is paying Metro, the taxpayers are not paying any extra, just this is what we're paying
currently.
currently.
But we have to maintain both for our water and sewer. It can't go into the red.
I got you.
So they have to maintain those utilities like a business per state law. So I'm sure Ms. Danielle, Ms. Phyllis can look at that and very quickly tell us how big of an impact it'll be. So no pressure, guys.
And I think you'd question what's a CCF, it's 100 cubic feet.
Yeah.
Is what that is.
Which is a lot. Okay, moving on to number 12, motion to approve a memorandum of understanding with Box 55 for rehabilitation services for the Laverne Police and Fire. Chief Beasley, do you want to kick us off with this?
Yes,
Please,
How about it?
we'll bring you right up.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. As you can see in the project, what we've requested is a memorandum of understanding with Box 55 for rehabilitation services for the police department, fire department. We previously had an agreement that we had for a number of years with Box 100, which dissolved last year, I believe, in 2023. Since that time, we've had a verbal agreement with Box 55 to provide mutual aid for us. We met with them, Chief Mays, his command staff, my command staff, talked about it, looked at the services that they provide, the timelines in which we could expect them to arrive on the scene during an incident. We also requested or talked about the ability to provide those services. And Metro Nashville is a significant sized department, similar to what I'm accustomed to in most of my career. It's not uncommon for them to have more than one working incident, and what would occur if they were involved with their two vehicles, committed to two different incidents, how would we receive services? They would either provide a light-duty vehicle, pickup truck, something in a personal vehicle that would provide those rehab services to us, and or they have an agreement with an additional box group. I think it's Box 85, is that correct?
Williamson and Wilson County.
Okay, so they have two mutual aid agreements with two other resources. So I feel like that they can provide services to us. It's a critical piece of our day-to-day operations. I mean, you know what the weather was today, and you know what the weather was last February when it was snowing. The fire department has an NFPA standard. It says that we will provide rehab services for very specific incidents. Once we go through 2 bottles of air on our SCBAs, when we have hazardous material incidents, confined space, those are recommended us to by NFPA. So though it is not a law, it could be used against us in a court of law as a subject matter expert. So if we had a firefighter go down from heat exhaustion or overexertion and we did not provide those rehab services, it could be utilized against us. Police does not have such a standard that I'm aware of. However, they have the very same needs. The gear that they wear day to day on a patrol, on an incident on the interstate, a long stand, on a vehicle accident, a DUI check or something like that, where they're standing there and their gear is not conducive to their health for long periods of time. And we have to find some means to provide that to our fire and police officers. I don't consider this an option. It may be some other option than them, but rehab services are not an option in my viewpoint as a leader in this department to take care of my firefighters and Chief Mays. I don't want to speak for him, but I feel that he would say the same, that it's not an option to provide something. We've also started carrying coolers in the fire chief's vehicle, in the battalion chief's vehicle, which is still not adequate for our needs. So I would highly recommend that we consider this as a board of mayor and aldermen to provide these services through Box 55. It is the best resource that we can have within this agency without hiring somebody specifically as to provide that services day to day within the fire or police department, in my opinion.
Okay.
Chief Mace?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. This is a project that was brought to my attention by Chief Beasley. He's spearheaded it, but as I've gone through the process and had the conversations with them, the need for this is great, and it's something that I take seriously, that we as leaders, we got to take care of our people, first and foremost. And this is one of the ways that we can do it, and I would give it my resounding support.
And Chief, you got some representatives from the organization here?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay, if you can bring them up, and I'm sure there's questions, so I'll open it up. If you could just introduce yourself to the board and the people watching at home.
Absolutely. So good evening. My name is Rick Short. I'm the current president of the Box 55 Association.
So Rick, I'll start out. First of all, thank you gentlemen for coming. We appreciate it. And I want to make it abundantly clear that I think that the rehab is 100% needs to happen. I think it's a great thing. And I've spoke with both chiefs. I've spoke with some other people in the fire and fire department. And again, I think it's very important that we have this. But as a board, and especially myself, I've got to make a vote on how to spend our tax dollars, $18,000 from our taxpayers. So before I put my vote on that, I want to ask some questions. Hopefully the people at home are watching or will be watching, and maybe they will understand or get a better grasp on why. I don't want to say we, because it's their vote. But if this passes or don't passes, I want them to know why we spent $18,000. So my first question is, who takes priority if there is an incident in Davidson County and here at the same time?
So we have 35 volunteers. We are used to responding to multiple incidents at the same time, regardless of where they are. Up until 10 years ago, we were the only rehab organization in the entire Middle Tennessee area. We routinely went to Williamson County, Wilson County, Sumner County, et cetera. Since that period of time, Rehab 100, Williamson, all these other groups have formed as kind of offshoots of us. But we have the ability we currently have 2 vehicles. We have a 3rd vehicle on order. And with 35 volunteers, we're able to handle most anything. You know, certainly we could be hit with a major flood. We could be hit with a tornado. We could be hit with all kinds of things. So I can't stand here and just say, no, that's not going to happen. But we are used to and we are procedurally oriented to respond to multiple incidents at one time.
I definitely want you to be honest. So I appreciate that. You have to excuse me. I wrote some things down on my phone.
I have one more question to add to that. So
Yeah.
like back to Vice Mayor No's question about prioritizing, do you prioritize that based on incoming call for the need? Is
Well,
that-
it's just based on time. In other words, it's just
Right.
like the police department or the fire department. First call that comes in is the first thing that's going to respond. I mean, we
Right.
respond in real time on an emergency basis.
yeah.
The next call comes in, we either have the second truck, soon to be a third truck.
And that would be whether it's Davidson County?
Wouldn't
or
matter.
Rutherford? Okay.
It absolutely wouldn't matter. And right now, you know, I'll give you Hendersonville as an example. Even though Sumner County has its own rehab group, the fire chief in Hendersonville has a preference for us and frequently calls us. So if that call comes in next, that's where we're going.
Thank you.
Good, yes, good. I guess this would be for the fire chief and the police chief to ring in. How many incidents occurred last year that would require a rehab to be there to attend? I mean, you don't have to be exact, but just, because I was trying to figure up if it's, you know, if it's 10
Bruce,
incidents.
do you
that's-
have the month report in front of you from last year? It's not, it'll be in last year's, it'll be in next.
The annual report.
Should be in last
annual
month's report.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull that up.
I think that we had roughly 23 structure fires within the city, 19 to 23, something like that.
Yeah, but would
And-
that be 23 structure fires that you would need rehab on?
No, that's not necessarily the case. I would
Right.
say probably 12 that, and it's depending on temperatures and weather and how long we're on the incident. I mean, the first time that we worked with Box 55 was not even a response that we requested them. It was 8,000 gallons of gasoline on I-24. And Box 100 was out of service for the day. And Metro Nashville and I were working together in mutual aid. They called for Box 55 and responded, and they were there for hours on end. So I'm going to say that we might call for them 12 times, and then we would use them in training evolutions if we needed them. Same thing that police has done in the past for their training evolutions. So maybe, I know that the MOU said 2 to 3 times a month. It could be 6 times, and it could be 2.
Right, and again, I just want to be
Yeah.
clear, I'm not trying to.
Yes, sir.
The people, the taxpayers watching at home want to be clear about their $18,000 that,
I don't consider this a situation as we're paying per call. It's not as if we were paying for a service from a vendor that says, we're
No.
gonna come to your facility and change your air filters once a month in your 19 buildings within the city. We're paying for a service that is as needed and as long as we need, when we need them. Mr. Rich?
Chief, in 2023, under structure fires, no, this is any structure fire.
Yes, sir.
Was a total of 50 in 2023. In 2022, it was 26.
Okay. And again, I would say what we would need might be 12 to 14 times out of that time period.
okay? And Chief?
I don't have any historical data prior to my arrival on September 6th, but
You ain't been,
since
my bad, Chief. My bad, Chief, I shouldn't have put you on the spot.
That's all right.
So-
Since my arrival, we had 0.
There again, I'm just trying
Well,
to,
hold on, Chief, we have had one. They were out, I believe, with the Drake shooting.
Oh, that's correct, yes.
I think everybody was out with them, so that was great. But like I said, I'm not trying to, you know.
And Mr. Noah, we want to be perfectly transparent as well.
So, I'm not gonna rehash 10 years ago. It is what it is, it's gone, it's over with. But I am going to say that, and I think the people that were here, I think Alderman Haas was on that team. Box 100 was phenomenal. Phenomenal for Laverne, phenomenal for the community, but they're not around. They're over in doing Rutherford County now. They're still in existence, they're just not here. So to take this a step farther, they were so instrumental in our community as far as not just helping police and fire, but helping citizens, helping Parks and Rec. And I know Mr. McGowan back there, I'll tell you that, and any of the police people, parking, 5K runs, the fall festival, things like that. Is any of that something that you guys are going to be able to help out with, or is it strictly going to be on a call-up basis?
No, so when you have certain events, I'll use 4th of July, New Year's Eve, things like that. We are used to scheduled responses where we will be deployed based on police and fire chief's direction. We don't do parking, we don't do those kinds of things that Box 100 may have done, but we will be here to rehab, support, and feed police and fire, emergency management, those kinds of folks for those kinds of events. We have no issue whatsoever supporting, I'm going to call it a reasonable number of community local events.
And it's terrible when you can't even write yourself a note. It really is. Y'all can laugh, but I can't remember exactly how I worded it. But what about if one of our firefighters or policemen, for some obscure reason, were to get injured around one of your trucks or something? Who would that fall on?
Well, we certainly carry appropriate liability insurance, just as the city does and all of that. I can't say what would come out in a court of law or an investigation. If you're saying, was it caused by us or just near our vehicle?
Just, one of them stepped up on your vehicle and got a
Okay.
cup of water and fell down, who'd be responsible, Evan?
The insurance companies would have to, talk that through and decide. But we carry very adequate liability insurance. We have policies and procedures not only for those first responders on scene, but for our own folks. Just a minute, introduce. Our vice president's here, our logistics officer is here, excuse me. Our treasurer is here, and our safety officer is here. So we also have a secretary who's involved as well. So we take the whole thing very seriously. We are all about training and safety and those kinds of things.
I don't have any more questions, but I will say to this board that Thursday, when the time comes, I will be voting for them because I think it's instrumental. I think our police and fire need it. But I wanted to make sure that the folks at home understand why we're spending their money.
Yes,
but
sir.
I think it's a very big part of the rehab. So I'll be quiet now, Mayor.
Mayor, if I could I would
Yes.
also like to, in our initial meeting with them, one of the things that we brought to this group was, we know that we've had members that were volunteers with Box 100, or even residents that may want to volunteer to work with Box 55. They're willing to do a recruitment effort for the city. I don't want to speak,
Absolutely.
and
No, that's right.
that was one of the things that we stipulated. We know that we had people with that group that was very instrumental, that is very plugged in within the city government, providing citizens, us, and PD, incredible services over the past 8 to 10 years when Box was serviceable. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he had agreed that he would be willing to do a recruitment. We do have one resident, this gentleman here lives right behind the Kroger, and he's a resident of the city of Laverne, so.
And I was an active member in both Box 100 as well as Box 55 at the same time as a dual member.
I've seen that van sitting back there.
So
I
Evan,
remember that now.
Yeah, and not picking on Chief Beasley's words, but I would say not only are we willing, we actually said we would want to recruit locally.
Good.
We want local people, not for a lot of reasons. It ought to have the local town and the local town commitment, but also the urgency of the response and the timeliness.
Evan, have you had a chance to review the addendum to the MOU? I was reading through some of 4 and 8 and just wanted to make sure that cleared indemnification and attorney's fees.
So the addendum, I don't know if you can scroll, Glenn, if you can scroll down through what's in the packet. So there's the original memorandum of understanding, then I prepared an addendum to that, which Box 55 has signed, which would surpass anything else and remove all the objectionable language that was in the original agreement. Box 55 has agreed to all that, so we've dealt with that in that second addendum.
Okay, but those two specific sections you're good on for the attorney's fees and the
Well,
indemnification?
I'm not good with them, but the second agreement that they've signed edits those. So what I did was prepare an addendum to that contract that would negate those two objectionable terms and have terms that are agreeable to us. The first contract you have in there is what Box 55, I understand, presented to us. I had some issues with what was in there, so instead of marking theirs up, I just prepared an addendum to address what we would want to have in there, and they've signed off.
Which
on
we
that.
signed.
Okay, and those two sections are in your addendum, so,
Yes, sir, correct.
okay. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, the police and the fire department, they have their own rehab people, right, chief? Y'all,
No, sir. Well, I do not have anybody specified as rehab. Right now, I have a battalion chief's car that has a Yeti-style cooler in the back of it with a case and a half of water and ice and some Gatorade. And-
Okay.
and
I was
that's all
thinking
I have.
we're gonna use them for auxiliary, but they're gonna be the main, rehab people for the
Yes, sir.
police and fire.
And there's no way to guarantee how long it's gonna take them. I mean, we just had a whole meeting with a gentleman about how long the traffic takes on I-24. So,
My second question is, why aren't we using Box 100?
Box 100 dissolved in the city of Laverne last year.
Well, they're working for the county.
They dissolved. We received an email from the president of that organization. I believe it was last October or September, late summer, early fall before the police incident, that they had dissolved. That was our first notification. They dissolved and no longer provided those services.
Okay, I was thinking the Box 100 was working for the county.
I cannot say they are or they're not.
Okay.
Yeah, Box 100 is working with the county. They, regardless of what happened, they're
Yes,
not
sir.
here. Mr. Short, one more question.
Yes, sir.
If this passes on Thursday night, when will you all start?
Well, as Chief had said, we've come 2 times at his request on just a mutual aid basis, so that we weren't looking for compensation. That's not what that was about. So our services are available right this minute. If they have a need, or Chief Mays has a need, we can respond today.
One more question. If Box 100 is working for the county, how come we're not using Box 100? I'm not saying not use Box 55 too, but if they're working for the county and I pay county taxes, how come Box 100 ain't coming and helping Laverne? Because they're getting my county money.
That previously had as much as a 20 and possibly even more that we were paying them previously for a contract with the city. It was $20,000 the last year. Is that accurate? And I believe it was as much as $25,000 at one point. Is that accurate? Yeah. The city was contracting with Box 100. We paid for them their last year of existence, and then we received a letter saying that they were dissolved.
I understand that, but if my understanding is right, Box 100 is working for the county. If they're working for the county, everybody in Smyrna, Laverne pays county taxes. So, why not we ain't using it? I didn't say that we don't need to use Box
Yes, sir.
55. Anything that can help the police and fire for that little money, it should be a no-brainer.
I don't know what their contract is with the
It
county.
depends on whatever their scope is.
Yeah,
Whatever their
I don't know if
scope
they're
is.
paying them or not.
It's just the same as with Box 55. Whatever their scope of work is what their scope
If
of work
Box
is.
100 is working for the county.
I don't know that they are
and-
working for the
and
county. I'm
people in
not.
Smyrna and Laverne and Eagleville pays county taxes.
It may
You know,
only be
I-
for the
I just,
unincorporated areas, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it may be for the unincorporated areas. We don't know their scope of work,
Yeah.
so.
It's my opinion.
That was just a question I had.
It's my opinion that Box 100 is not here willing to help us, but Box 55 has shown up twice offering their services. So I think it would be a wise choice to go with somebody that's here and ready to support us.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to jump in on a comment that the Vice Mayor made. It probably goes without saying, but in your scenario of an employee getting hurt, If the employee is on the clock with us, our workers' compensation covers that without any question for the employee's sake.
That's good. I just know how Bruce Richardson is, and I wanted to ask.
You're talking about the guy who does axe throwing on ice?
Throwing on an ice rink, you know.
We appreciate the way that Mr. Richardson is, otherwise I'd have hired 10 people to do this internally.
Any other questions?
So, if this passes Thursday night, we do have a fall festival coming up in September. Would your plan be to set up a recruiting tent or something at the fall festival to try and start recruiting?
I mean, there would be no
members at
reason
that
why we
time?
wouldn't do that. Is that a one-day event or what kind of?
Saturday. It's a
Sure, no,
Saturday
absolutely.
event.
Absolutely. The other thing is, you know, we use social media a lot. And so we would want to work out, again, with Chief Mays and Chief Beasley, exactly what that looks like. There are 2 or 3 names of individuals that frankly have been involved with Box 100 before, that on their recommendation, we will sit down with one-on-one proactively. I mean, we've got all kinds of ideas about how we would recruit, but that fall festival is absolutely something we can do. It's not a problem.
I mean, that way you said social media, and social media is good, but,
Yeah.
I mean, social media is great. In fact, someone asked me today, what would you do if there wasn't social media? And I said, I'd probably be reading a whole lot more books.
Yeah,
on
well,
Facebook.
but the social media doesn't take the place of face-to-face.
Right, and there are people, I mean, and Vice Mayor No has said it before, there are people in the community that do not use social media, and they prefer the one-on-one to sit and talk with someone.
No, absolutely.
And the community is familiar with Box 100 and with what Box 100
Yep.
did.
Yep.
And so, you know, I'm just saying, having the one-on-one, having you out there.
Absolutely.
Your vehicle is awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, it's.
And we would want to do that in such a way, in every way, verbally and demonstrably, that has nothing disparaging towards Box 100.
Right.
That's not even part of the equation.
Right, I mean, in Box 100 isn't, but I'm just saying, having, you know, the one-on-one
Yeah.
out there, and then, I know your logistics person was very, you know, what he said as far as scheduling people, you know, within the community.
Yep.
That have the vehicles to provide immediate support until one of your vehicles could get there.
Correct.
That impressed me.
Yeah, and again, for clarity, we use a software program that's the same as the existing fire department software program in terms of response notification and so on. So it would be we'll still do some integration meetings and some planning, but the process is pretty straightforward about, you know, how we would communicate.
I have one final question.
Yes, sir.
Is your members volunteer or they're paid?
So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. No one is on payroll for a penny.
Okay.
100% of everything we do is a volunteer. You may or may not know, but this is our 72nd year of volunteer service. Our group began in 1952. All of our tax records, all of our everything is public information. Happy to provide that.
So.
Thank you.
So I've got another question,
Yep.
like, if Chief Mays is having an applicant testing or whatever, and he would like someone out there from Box 55 to have water, Gatorade, you know, snacks or whatever for
Absolutely.
the applicants, and there was a volunteer here in Laverne, would you all reach out to that volunteer and say, can you come to this applicant testing and provide services?
Well as enough people.
It's anything
We
is-
might need 2 or 3 people.
Right.
So absolutely.
Okay, that's just one of the things that I know.
And those are the
that
kinds of
Boxwood-
things we're used to doing, whether
Okay.
it's testing, you know,
Like
recruiting
the fire
events.
department's got training at the multipurpose building, and
absolutely.
they need someone out there because it's like an 8-hour training or whatever.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just trying to get to see what other scope or other
Yeah,
events
no,
that you all would support, you know, besides just the calls. That's
No,
what I'm
we
trying to
absolutely
get
would.
out.
Any of
Okay.
those things, our mission is always to rehab fire, police, emergency management. parking and those things are very important, but that's not our mission, and that's not, it's just not what we do. Box 100 and others that do that, it's a wonderful thing. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what our mission is. That's not what our folks are set to do.
Okay. I was just trying to see what else.
But no,
what
those
other
trainings,
opportunities.
absolutely,
Okay.
trainings, recruitment activities, community days, different events like, again, New Year's Eve, 4th of July, whatever.
Yeah, and I think the next thing after that would be National Night Out, which is
Yep.
with the police department.
Yeah, Davidson
I mean-
County is actually tonight.
Right. And I'm all for rehab. I mean, as I said in the last meeting, I was a member of Box 100.
I was going to say, I happen to have a Box 55 application with me if you.
Not right now, I have to wait.
All right.
Any other questions?
What's the appropriate way to address like the council members here? I've done it before, like talk to the mayor or talk to council members. It's my,
So we have a public comment period that you can sign up for that happen in our meetings. But if you stick around after the meeting, we can talk to you.
So, thank y'all for your time
And-
and the information in bringing the vehicle. And like I said, I'm all for
Great.
rehab to support our firefighters, EMS guys, and
Great.
anything else.
And let me just clarify one other thing too that we didn't talk about. When someone applies with us, we have a vetting process. We have an interview process. There are background and, criminal history checks. There are things about that. We don't say yes to everybody just because they express an interest. We have to make sure that their motives are pure and they're not trying to, do silly things. And, our mission's very clear. We're after taking care of first responders. So thank you for your time. Hopefully we'll look forward to working very closely with all of you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Short.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Moving on to our appoint or remove board and committee members. First, we've got the Beautification and Arts Advisory Committee. We've still got one term vacant with the passing of Mr. Al Lane, and that is being advertised on Channel 3 and on social media. So if you would like to apply, please do so. And then we have an FYI for the board, which is Kathy Tyson had resigned from the Industrial Development Board, and we will begin advertising this position on social media and on Channel 3. I believe I saw the posting for that earlier today, so that will be put out there. Moving on to Mayor and Alderman comments.
I have one question about that. How many people on the Industrial Development Board are also on our Planning Commission?
You've got 4. Moving on to Mayor and Alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Again, just make sure you check on the elderly people. Make sure your pets have ample shade and water. And it's that time again, the kids going back to school, so be careful with the kids standing on the side of the road waiting for the bus. Sometimes they're hard to see early in the morning. And again, when the school bus stops and that stop sign goes out, that means stop. I've seen a lot of people in the past years fly by, but when that stop sign comes out on the side of that bus, I think you're supposed to stop. Thank you.
Alderwoman Hobbs.
Nothing for this evening, thank you.
Alderwoman Haas.
Just a reminder, it's been on social media that the railroad crossing at Stones River going over to the old Nashville Highway is going to be blocked for CSX construction. It's nothing with the city, nothing with Dietz or with Doug. So just a reminder that there's a detour. It's supposed to be about 24 hours. Another road condition is Howl at the Moon is Friday the 16th. So Murfreesboro Road going into Nashville will be diverted. I had to get my directional thing straight. I don't have a compass. Will be diverted for the racers. So just a quick heads up on that. I'm sure that Parks and Rec will put more information out on Facebook, and then you'll see the blinky signs on the sides of the road. Other than that, everyone stay safe, stay hydrated, and thank your Public Works staff members for being out in this awful heat.
Vice Mayor No.
All you.
Okay, well, just want to let the public know, TDOT has been out working on Murfreesboro Road, trying to fix part of the left-hand lane headed into Nashville. So just please be aware of that. We want to see road improvements, and this is just part of it. So big thank you to Michael and Doug. I know y'all been wearing out TDOT on a bunch of stuff, so thank y'all. How the Moon is coming up. It's going to be great seeing both the chiefs running down there. It's a competition to see who's going to make it first. So I'm very proud of y'all for signing up for that. So
I guarantee a win because I'm just going to tip myself over and roll.
it's downhill for the first part, so you're good. Remind everyone that August 20th, 10 a.m., we have got the ribbon cutting grand opening for our new Fire Station 41. It is amazing to see and to go through. Chief Beasley's been going through with his mop, making sure the floors are clean and that everything looks beautiful. And we'll be there to welcome everybody. So should be a very, very good time. Do want to remind you about schools. Usually we have police out in force, so please make sure you are minding crosswalks, school zones, school buses. Do not try to go around them because our police will find you and they will get you. So please make sure you're being safe because the little ones are very important. With that, I call this meeting adjourned.